Hey, what's up? It's Laser Lemon, and today I want to work on my LEGO Edmund Fitzgerald project, and I want you to come with me. So let's get going. So before we start, I wanted to show you some of the tools that I use. So what we're looking at here is called Bricklink Studio. Bricklink Studio says it's powered by the LEGO Group, which I think means it's like official LEGO software, but I'm not totally sure. But it is a really good software package for designing LEGO builds. So I just want to show you some of the things it can do and how it works, so you're familiar when we jump into the Edmund Fitzgerald. So let's take a look at what we can do here. So what we have here is a 3D stage and a big collection of Legos that we can drag and drop onto that stage. So designing in LEGO or in Bricklink Studio is a lot like designing in real life. The difference is you just have an endless amount of Legos that you can work with, and basically every color that's available. What's also nice is Bricklink is a website, a marketplace for Legos. So as you put Legos on your stage, you can also see if they're available in that color, how much they cost. You can buy them new and used. And after you design something, you could upload the whole parts list and buy it in like a couple clicks, which is pretty great. So let's just see if we can just stack a few things up. All right, so I can just like click and drag these bricks. And when I say they have all Legos, I mean it. Like, you might wonder what's the difference between these two Legos. And the difference is one has a little stud holder thing on the bottom and one doesn't. And you can get all sorts of information about every Lego. If you click this link, open up a browser, it'll give you all the years that it was available, all this stuff. It's just a wealth of information. If you want to change colors, you can drag and drop, choose colors. Maybe we can make a little flag. This is starting to look a little patriotic. Let's give it a go. So I'm just clicking and dragging and then just placing it where I want it to be. And you can see it kind of snaps to the stage, which is nice. So, okay, so we have like a bottom stripe. Actually, I'm going to select this and I can option click and it'll duplicate that whatever I have selected. So now I just made a longer stripe. I'm going to kind of center this. And now I'm going to select this whole thing and make another stripe on top. While they're all selected, I'll make it white and then drag it right on top. Now I can grab all of these and do the same thing. So you can see how quickly you can make progress by just dragging and dropping Legos, duplicating, and things like that. This is in no way looking like a good American flag, but hey, not bad. So let's see. If I want to look for a different kind of Lego, I could scroll through. They have them organized by all these different categories, but I find that the most helpful way to do it is to just search. So I don't know if there is such a thing as a 1x6 brick. Oh, there is. Okay, so I'm going to drag this 1x6 brick up here. And I want to make it blue. And I want to make a couple more. And look at that. That's not bad. That's not bad for like 2 minutes work. And what's great is then I have a lot of other tools available to me. Once I have a design that I'm happy with, oh, I got a little mix of Lego parts on the bottom, but that's okay. Once I have a design that I'm happy with, I can do things like select it. And look at this. At the bottom, you might not be able to see it. It might be very small on the stream, but it says 36 parts selected, price $11.43, 43.6 cents somehow. That is more than I expected. And I bet it has to do with these Legos here. So they're probably more rare or are like out of production. So let's see if we can do something about that. If I select those, I can go to this replace all link. And which one So this is 65 cents with the bottom tube. This is 4.8 cents. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, that made things cheaper, right? So now this whole thing is $2.33. Hey, so we're making progress. There's lots of other tools available too. Like I can evaluate this for stability, which is kind of cool. It identifies clutch power issues. Clutch is how tightly Legos hold on to each other. And depending on your build, you could have clutch power issues where Legos could fall off of each other very easily if they're overhanging and things like that. And it gives you warnings about connectivity, like if you have some Lego parts that are just kind of floating in midair and they're not actually connected well, it'll tell you things like that too. So this, it's a little hard to read, but it would give me like red and dark red bricks if any of them were a problem. But since these are all white, there's no issues, there's no warnings. This green base is telling me that it's pretty stable left to right, but not front to back. Obviously this build could tip over very easily. So it does give you some pretty helpful information there. So congratulations, we just built our first, or just designed our first Lego build. So let's move on. Let's move on to something a little more complicated. The Edmund Fitzgerald midship. So I have that open here. So I've been working on this for quite a bit, and it got to a point where I thought, okay, this is pretty close to what I think the final midship section will be like. And just to give a refresher, I'm designing a 1:200 scale model of the Edmund Fitzgerald. That puts the whole ship at about 43 inches long. I can't remember exactly. And it's going to divide up into 3 different sections. And this is the midship section. I'm calling it the midship. There's the bow section and the stern section. Bow is the front, stern is the back. Those are just nautical terms. This was getting pretty close. I haven't started work at all on the bow or the stern because they seemed a lot harder. And I'd never used these tools before, so I wanted to get started on something I thought was going to be easy. Spoiler alert, it was not easy. This was very complicated, and it's still not done. So I got this to a pretty good point, and I thought, it's time to buy some Legos. So I bought the Legos needed to build this, and I wanted to test it out. You might think, like, test what out? It's just a Lego build. But there's some moving parts, and there are some structural things that I wasn't quite sure about. So let's start with the moving parts. Actually, before we do that, first let's just take a little tour of the ship. So there are some main sections of it, right? So you might notice these stands on the bottom. These stands are actually duplicates of the stands used in the Lego Titanic. It's a slight variation, so it'll stick to the studs on the bottom of this ship versus the Titanic's. But otherwise, these are the exact same. I think of this Edmund Fitzgerald build as kind of a companion to the Titanic, since they both use the same 1:200 scale. So there's these stands. These are removable. In Bricklink Studio, you can see this is selectable as like it's one big piece. And that's not true, but what they call it in Studio is a submodel. So I can take a bunch of pieces and group them into a submodel. So I could, if I wanted to make changes to just this submodel, I could jump in and do that. Submodels also have their own build instructions, kind of separate from the main model, which is helpful too when you're generating build instructions. So for now, I can just take this and hide it. This is another superpower of Bricklink Studio. If I want to see the middle of my build or make changes to the middle, I can make things invisible, which is something that is harder to do in real life. So let's do that. Let's take the top off of this and we can take a look inside. These are the cargo holds. And I tried to be as accurate as possible with where the divider between these cargo holds would fall. You'll notice these little C-clips. That's because I am designing cargo, like a big block of cargo that would slide into these holds and fit kind of perfectly in this U shape, and then click into the back to be held into place, so you can slide them in or out and they would stay in place when clicked in. So that's what's happening there. You can see the top of these cargo holds uses some plates that have fewer studs, and that's so if you need to lift off that top section, the section we just hid, that's the spar deck. If you need to remove that, it makes it easier if there are fewer studs. Now you might wonder what these little brown pieces are here. If we show these hidden pieces again, they look a little bit, hopefully, they look a little bit like cleats. On a ship, you have like a piece that goes up and you can wrap a rope around it, right? And so that's a way that you can tie a ship to a dock and stuff like that. So they're meant to look like cleats. I believe these were on the Edmund Fitzgerald, but I have a different purpose for them. I designed them to be buttons. So let's remove this center section. And so we can just look at the side here. Let me hide these stands again. So what we're looking at here is this. Let's see if I can just view this submodel. Yeah, okay. So this side section has two of these keys, I'm calling them, and they're floating. They're not actually attached to anything. So in Bricklink Studio, they're just kind of positioned just so. So let me pull one out. Actually, instead of doing that, let me just view the submodel. Let's zoom out there a little bit. So it's a pretty simple little build, just a few pieces. But this combination of one brick high and then two plates, well, we're going to get into a conversation about LDUs, Lego draw units. So a brick is, I believe, 24 LDUs tall, and a plate is 8 LDUs tall. So if you add this all up, 8 plus 24 plus 8 is 40. I hope I'm doing my math right. And a brick is 20 LDUs wide from here to here. So the reason I'm telling you this, and the reason that's important, is because if we go back to this model, this brick is tipped on its side and it's got plates on it, but it needs to fit into a space that's actually 2 bricks wide. And so a brick is 20 wide, so that's 40 LDU from here to here, that gap. And this little pin, this little key that we designed, is 24 plus 8 plus 8. And so it's also 40 LDU. It fits perfectly in there. So this key is meant to slide up and down. Now, why is it meant to slide up and down? Great question. It's because this arm here is hinged. There's a plate that's attached to this inner wall, and it's got a pin sticking out of it. I'll move that piece out just so you can see it. So this arm is attached to this rightmost pin, and the whole thing hinges. There's actually a hinge tool, and please work. Yeah, so it'll hinge around this spot, and you can see how that happens. So this whole thing moves up and down. Now, what's the purpose of that? This is the latch the latching mechanism that I designed to connect the two sections of the ship together. So this button here is meant to push this arm down and open up this gap. Let's do that one more time just so we can see that gap open up. And then another arm from the other ship section will slide right in above this, and then this will snap back into place into a pinhole, and it will hold it in place. You'll have to take my word for it that this is a perfect design and it's wonderful and nothing could go wrong. You might wonder what makes it snap back into place. Bricklink Studio doesn't have great support for rubber bands yet, but LEGO also produces small rubber bands to make things spring-loaded. And that's what this black pin and this piece right here are for. So a rubber band wraps around there and pulls that arm up. And so this button is spring-loaded and pushes that arm down, and when you let go, it springs back up into position. And then there's another button on the other side. So this side connects to the stern section, this side connects to the bow section, and then the same thing is repeated on the port side, the left side of the ship. So it took me a long time to figure this out, and I had a few goals in mind for this latching mechanism. Let's return to the main model here. And let's show some of the ship again. Show the spar deck. Okay, so because this is designed to break apart into multiple sections so you can see the cross section of the ship. I want you to be able to see the cargo holds and see cargo inside. This is the cargo hold. These areas to the left and right, those cavities actually did exist in the Edmund Fitzgerald. They were, I forget the term for them, but they were meant to hold water. And that may seem a little silly, but when the ship wasn't loaded with cargo, let's say it's coming back from dropping off all its cargo, they would fill these cavities with water to make sure that the ship was sitting at the right level in the water. Otherwise, it would be too unstable. It'd sit too high in the water because the ship would be too light. So these cavities on the left and right did actually exist in the Edmund Fitzgerald. And so I wanted to make a latching mechanism that was small and simple because I didn't want to clutter this cross-sectional view too much. I wanted that cross-section to be as realistic as possible, understanding that I was going to have to add something to make these things connect to each other. So this is what I came up with. I thought it was pretty good. Another one of my goals is to make it kind of seamless with the ship. So these cleats on the top, they look like they're a part of the ship, but they're actually functional too, functional buttons. So I thought that was a kind of a clever solution too. Yeah, so I was pretty happy with this. The problem is that it doesn't work. Let me tell you why. So to test this out, I couldn't just build this midship section because I would have nothing to connect it to. So I basically took this midship section and I modified it into roughly into two halves, and kind of made the counterpart that we would find in the stern section or in the bow section to connect to this. So I have that file here. It's called latch test. And it uses mostly the same pieces as the midship, and that's intentional. So I could buy the pieces and they would still be reusable. So I could build them into this test out the connection, and see how strong it is. So yeah, the goals are that it blends in seamlessly with the ship. It doesn't take you out of the historical accuracy of the ship. It needs to be sturdy. Like I said, the ship is going to be long, almost 4 feet long, and heavy. And so when it's all connected, I want it to behave like a single sturdy build that you could lift up and not worry about the bow or the stern crashing to the ground and shattering into a million pieces. So it needs to be seamless, it needs to be strong, and it needs to be easy to use. I want it to pretty easily just click into place. So I want to take a second and pause in the computer, and I want to go to my desk because I have the built latch test that I want to show you. So let's take a look. Here's what it looks like. This is the piece we were just looking at. This kind of represents the midship section with its cargo hold. For this test build, there's no division. You can see straight through the cargo hold, which is kind of cool. And you can see our little buttons are in place and the rubber band is in place, if you can see that. And if you push the button, it works. It's beautiful. But it's got some problems too. So let's dive into that. So if I try to connect these two things together, this is where it could go horribly wrong. If you remember, this whole arm that swings up and down is connected to this inside wall, and it's not a very strong connection. It's only connected by, 4 studs or something like that. So I'm gonna try to show an angle where you see how these fit together. You can see on this section, this is connected rigidly, and it's gonna slide in. This arm is going to go down, and that pin is going to go up through the hole in this section. So let's see if we can actually do it. Remember that part I said about it being easy to do? Okay, I think it's in place. Okay, so these are connected to each other. So far, so good. It wasn't too hard to do, but will it stay together? So if I lift this up, you can see there's a little bit of play already. If I lift this up, yes, it holds it. Of course, this is a very light section compared to what it will have to support, the whole bow section or the whole stern section. The problem came when I tried to simulate what that weight would do. So if I pick this up and just put a little bit of stress on it, it all comes apart. You can see they're still connected. Those pins are still in there, but that's because those whole arms just came off of the wall. It didn't take much, and they're just completely disconnected and floating in there. Just kind of weirdly connected by rubber bands, and there they go. So now the whole thing's kind of falling apart. So this clearly doesn't work. We need to do better than this. So I'm looking for other ideas. What LEGO Titanic did is they had a huge key that had a huge Lego axle, kind of like this is a Lego axle, but it was long and it went through holes, kind of overlapping holes that in each section, and the axle goes straight through the holes, connecting the two halves together. And that worked great. But LEGO Titanic had a few advantages in that way. LEGO Titanic was a passenger ship. And so when you look at the cross section of Titanic, it goes about 1 inch deep because it's all guest rooms. And so you can hide a lot of sins behind the walls of those guest rooms. Edmund Fitzgerald doesn't have the same luxury. The cargo bays are wide open. The inside is totally expansive. There's no place to hide. And so I think it was a little bit easier for Titanic. The deck of the Titanic also had a lot more going on across the whole length of the ship. The deck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, especially in the midship section, is pretty clean. And so this is a challenge. So I decided I want to try to improve on this design and see if I can make some progress today. So, it's my lunch break, so I have 20 more minutes or so. I don't know. Let's see if we can make some progress. So let's pull up the midship, and let's see what we're working with. Here we go. So we can basically focus on... I think I'd like to keep the structure largely the same. I don't think I want to like reimagine everything. The structure of this center line of the ship and these two, the port and starboard hulls, I don't think it's going to change a lot. There's not a lot of change I feel like I can do before I throw the proportions and measurements of the ship totally out of whack. So I have an idea for what to do, but I haven't committed it to this model yet. So let's just see if I can make this work. And if anybody has any suggestions, I'm all ears, because this is my first Lego model I've ever designed. And I think I have a sickness where I am overly ambitious. I could have started small, but I did this instead. All right, so my idea is to change this so that it's not, this arm doesn't swing and it's not connected to this inner wall. I want it to be connected to something stronger and not pivot. This pivot point was experiencing a lot of stress, so I want to try to spread that stress out. So let's go directly into this submodel, and I'm just going to move this key. I think I might have to change how this key works. And actually I want to show you one more thing that was a problem with this this approach. This key in my model, it sits perfectly flush and flat with the top. In reality, it sits a little embedded down. It does not sit flat with the deck. And you probably can't tell that, mostly because the arm's gone now and it'll probably just fall through. Yeah. But it sat not quite like that, but it sat further down and it didn't look as seamless as I wanted it to look. So we're going to see if we can fix that too. So I think we might have to create a new key to operate whatever it is we build. So let's get destructive. Let's move some of these things. Let's start understanding how this is built now, and let's start making some changes. Up in the corner, I can select pieces. Default select means I just pick pieces one at a time, or I can pick by color, type and color. So I can pick all pieces that look like that and are that color. So that's 6 of them, and I can hide all of those at once, which is a handy little trick, especially when things are so repeated like this. Now you'll see these pieces are kind of cool. They're actually a single brick, but it has a plate sticking out of the middle, and then it's a kind of a standard brick. These pieces make nice sides to this little slot where the key can travel up and down, because it's a really sturdy connection. So let's see if let's rethink this. If I'm not going to have pivots on the wall, let's take those pieces out. In fact, let's just take these arms out altogether. And I'm not going to worry about the structure of the inside wall for right now. I'm just going to patch those up. And let's take this, we'll just move it for a second. And you can see in here, these pieces are actually these curved pieces. And then we have all these layers of plates that kind of overlap each other for stability. So what I was thinking I could do, and I don't know, time will tell, is to use a Technic brick. So maybe like a 1x8 Technic brick. So Technic brick is one of these bricks with all these holes. So let's see if I can, I'll just add it here for now. And let's see, my idea for this is to add some axles to this that can snap in like I don't even know what you'd call this, a pin axle. So it's a pin on one side and an axle on the other. Yeah, it looks just like this. Or this. This one is without friction ridges. That means it would spin freely. I think I want it with friction ridges. Holds a little tighter. So I can rotate this around and then kind of snap it right into place. Now I don't know if that color actually exists. No, I can see in the bottom that it doesn't give me a price for that. So I'm gonna look, okay, they only make that piece in black. So I'm gonna make it black. Okay, so now I have these two axles that are pretty sturdy and they're sticking straight up. So I know there's also, it's called like a lift arm with perpendicular holes. The only reason I know all these names is because I've already done a lot of this struggling in private. So I can try to align this right on top of those pins. So the idea is instead of having a swinging arm, I have this sliding arm. I know that now that I say it out loud, it doesn't sound a whole lot different. I hope it is a whole lot better, but I'm not certain it will be. And so I'd like for this to slide up and down. I'd like to put in one of these, another pin axle, but without such a long axle, just a one length axle. I must have flown right past it. Yeah, here we go. With friction ridges. Okay, and I believe, so you can see here, they do make this in black and white, but it has lots of dollar signs next to it. So it means maybe those are discontinued. Yeah, one of these pins in black costs $7.87. Or you can get it in blue and it's 2.6 cents. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I can put one there just like I had here. So instead of this arm swinging up and down, it's now going to be sliding up and down. And I think that will improve the stability. I also think that I want two pins. Like if we can have the arm from the other side of the ship connecting to two pinholes, I think that could increase our stability too. Okay, and let's see, there's a pin with a ball. That's this black piece on our old arm that we also want on this new piece, because this again is going to be rubber band powered so that it pulls up and kind of snaps into place. And we'll put another one over here. Is that right? Yeah. Now this little guy is already positioned well for a rubber band. It's really just like our last version of this build. These are not positioned correctly though. So let's see if we can make that better. We need to have our key centered right above these black pins. Okay, so now this needs to be replaced with a 1x2 plate. If you didn't know, these are called plates. The tall things are called bricks. The bumps are called studs. I've learned a whole new vocabulary as I've learned to design with Lego. Okay, so this is looking better. Oh, except I also need a rubber band holder over here above this ball too. So I want to connect, I think if I only connected one rubber band, it would produce kind of a torque on this arm and would not make it slide smoothly. So I want to have rubber bands on both sides so it'll slide smoothly up and down. I also think I probably need something on this side that's as tall as this to kind of stop it from going too high so it doesn't get kind of jammed up. So let's look for a pin with friction ridges. Yeah, okay. Now what color does that need to be? Black. Why is it expensive? Sometimes... Did I just have the wrong piece? That's long friction ridges, short friction ridges. Okay, it says the price is updating. It's going to Bricklink to find what the price is. And sometimes that takes a moment. But in the meantime, let's put this in place. Put it there too, and I think we can do like a 1 or a 3L lift arm. 3L means like 3 long. Maybe that's not how you do it. Some real trial and error. Okay, this is what I'm looking for, but 3 long. Here we go. And so I feel like if I put this on here and that clips in place, now when this thing slides up and down, this piece will run into the bottom of this piece and won't go any higher. You know, in fact, let's select all these pieces, this little thing we just made. Actually, not that pin. This, and this. I'm going to create this into a submodel. So test arm. What that lets us do is move the whole thing. Oops, I accidentally grabbed a piece I didn't want to grab. Like this piece doesn't belong there. So I'll just put this back into place or try. Okay, so now that this is a submodel, I can move the whole thing together. These things are all stuck together. So I should be able to kind of demonstrate how this would slide up and down. I can use the move tool where I can show you how it would slide up and down. So this is what it would look like when it's closed. It's slid all the way up. An arm would come right in here and be latch shut. And then this is what when the button is being pushed down and it's open. So I think this could work, especially if there's rubber bands on both sides, but I need to design a key. So how can I design a key? There's one piece that's felt really promising to me. I would like to be able to design a key that clicks in to this pinhole so that it's a solid connection to this arm that can slide up and down. And there was one piece that inspired this whole idea. And if I could only find it. It's not called a lift arm, I guess. Let's just, I don't know what it's called. So let's look in some of these categories. So Technic linker sounds promising. Here, it's this one. This is called pin connector plate. You can see the bottom of it is, it's like the bottom of a Lego plate. So my idea was to find a pin without friction ridges. And that means it can slide smoothly. Actually, I probably could just use friction ridges. Yeah. I'm going to. That's not how to do that. Pin with friction. Okay. Here's our pin. I wonder if it's telling me how much. Okay, so yeah, these only cost 2.5 cents. So we're good there. They only come in black. So I'd love to connect this to this piece, just like that, and then connect this to our movable arm. I think I got it there. Huh? Ooh, but I don't know if you can see this. It overlaps. So this can't slide up. It's gonna hit the bottom of this. And so it won't, there's nothing I can connect to the top of this well that will slide in this channel. Okay, so what if we don't, zoom out a little bit, what if we don't use a double-sided pin here? What if we just use like a pin with an axle? Maybe that would work. So let's call this blue. Let's connect this. And then maybe we can put this in sort of the same way, but not put it all the way in. So if I select this, and I'm going to take, that's wrong. That's the opposite. Okay, so I'm going to move this until it's lined up. So I can move this kind of one space at a time until it's perfectly lined up here. So you can see the axle is kind of sticking out. It's got some space. I would love for it to be clicked in there, but just the alignment I don't think is going to work. But I think these axles hold pretty tight in the pinholes. So I think we're okay. And now we just need something to, now you can see this is perfectly aligned in that space. And we just need something to go on top. The problem is we're studs up here and we're studs down here. I guess it's not a huge problem because we don't need to connect the two. This is just floating. But what can we do? First, I want to make this a little more realistic by building up our top here with how our actual spar deck would be connected. Just so we can see the height. I believe there'll be one more layer that supports the spar deck here. And okay. And then on top of that, there's a 1x4 fence makes up the railing around the perimeter. So that looks like that. And then there's a bunch of basically like plank decking that's also brown. So let's put those there. Turn them all brown. Just trying to make this as realistic as possible to see how it'll look. Make this brown, set it over here. And actually this, to make this a little more realistic, this will be closed in like this. So this will be the place we have for our key to slide up and down, to push this up and down, which will push this arm up and down, and it'll be spring loaded back into this position. Okay, so let's see if we can make a key. I mean, it seems like a good first step is just adding like a 1x2 brick, flipping it upside down, and just dropping it right there. So we're getting closer to this top level. Now we're studs down. How can we possibly get some kind of decorative feature on top? This is going to be tricky. So I know that we're going to have to find something that's 1x2 in size. So let's take this for instance. Like this is something. This could work. If I plop that right down. Okay, it doesn't really look like a thing. I wouldn't know what to call that. But you could push that down. It would work like a button. Maybe if we raise it. Oh. This is an idea. Put a pin in that. 1x2 plate. This is all I was really looking for. But sometimes inspiration strikes. Okay, so what if this? That kind of looks like a cleat or something, right? Maybe. It's kind of big. You know, it's as tall as this fence, which is presumably like 5 or 6 feet tall. I mean, that's pretty big. But okay, that's an option. Comment. Let me know what you think. This, or let's try this idea that just came to me. I think I'm going to need another 1x2 plate. We'll do this in brown. Okay, so now we're level, and I don't know what you would even call this, a hinge. Yeah, so basically like the counterpart of this hinge brick base. This. Okay, please come in brown. Okay, reddish brown. Brown is like an old color. Wow, that's $1.80 for that little piece. And it's $4.31 for that. I mean, it ain't great, but it's available, which isn't always the case. So then here's another option. Now this sits a little, it's really not any lower, but it seems a little lower profile to me, and it looks more like something that would be on the deck of a ship. It does sit a little proud at the deck level, but it just seems like something that's bolted down, doesn't it? I don't know. Leave your opinion in the comments on that one. I could be swayed either way. They both look all right, and I think that they would both work. This might boil down to trying it in real life. The problem is if this Lego costs $4, it's just a lot. Okay, so obviously the model is a complete mess right now, so I'll probably spend some time between now and next live stream just cleaning up the model and kind of finalizing this design, but I feel pretty good about it. I'm a little bit concerned about this not being tightly connected to this, just because the alignment, I don't know if I can get the alignment to work perfectly. But so when you push down on this, if it requires a lot of force, I'm a little bit concerned if it's going to like want to torque that key out of whack, or could that pin even slide out of that pinhole? That would not be good. Yeah, so we'll see. But I'm feeling pretty optimistic about this. I think we're just gonna have to run another test. So I'll probably, once I finalize this, I'll put it in the midship, but I'll put it in the latch test file too, and upload that part list to Bricklink and see if I can order some new bricks. Anyway, so I think that's where I'm going to call it for today. I got to get back to work. But thanks for coming with me today. And yeah, leave a comment on which option you like better for this button / cleat thing on the spar deck. I'm truly not sure which one I like better. Or if you have any different ideas for how to latch these things together. I've also considered like ball and socket joints, which are maybe around the perimeter of the ship sections. But those are real tight, and I'm a little afraid of how hard you'd have to push the ship sections together to get them connected and disconnected, and I wouldn't want ship pieces to go flying or anything like that. So if you have any other ideas for a good way to connect these two ship sections, I'm all ears. I think I'll try to schedule something for next week to stream again. Yeah, until then, take care of yourself. I'll see you soon.